Hello, this is Sheila Wilkinson-Sanders, and I am coming to you today to talk about a little bit of financial literacy. I know it's been a while, I'm retired, I've been traveling a lot, but we are in the middle of property tax season, and so for all of us that have real estate in Illinois, in Cook County, we don't like this time of the year because this is when we have to pay the second half of our taxes. And so when we get that envelope, or in my case, stack of envelopes in the mail, it is a stressful time because we know that we have to pay those taxes. And so I don't want to talk to you about the taxes itself, but what I want to do is talk about how you can reduce your taxes for the future. You have the ability, if you are in Cook County, if you live in Cook County, or if you have real estate in Cook County, you have the ability to appeal your tax basis. Not the amount of the taxes, but the basis that they use to determine how much your taxes are. In other words, you have the ability to appeal your assessed value. And that's the basis that they use to calculate your taxes. You can appeal those assessed values on the Cook County Assessor's website and then also on the Cook County Board of Review's website. Now, if you are in the Hyde Park Township, which I have several properties in the Hyde Park Township, you probably received a letter in the mail earlier this month or maybe at the end of last month that said that they revalued or reassessed your property, and that they do this every 3 years. Now, I think they actually did it more than once in the last 3 years, but nevertheless, you probably got that letter in the mail, and many of you probably just looked at it and said, oh my God, or just threw it away. You want to appeal those assessed values, that you don't have to just take their word for it. You need to look on that form, and if you don't have that form, you can go to cookcountyassessor.com and search on your PIN number if you know it. Look at your tax bills if you don't know it, or you can just search on your property address. And what will come up is a picture of your property, a description of your property, and then you'll see a estimated market value for your property and an estimated assessed value for your property. Your taxes are based on that assessed value. Your assessed value is based on the market value. So basically they come up with what they determine to be the market value for your property, which means if it was on the open market for sale, that's how much you would get for your property. And then they take that market value and they multiply it times 10%, and that's what your assessed value is. That assessed value for your property is the building plus the land. And that total is what they come to, and that's what they use as a basis for the Cook County Treasurer to calculate what your taxable amount is. So right now, and today is July 17th, right now, the Hyde Park Township, not the Hyde Park community, although the Hyde Park community is in the Hyde Park Township, but if you look on your tax bill or if you look on Cook County Assessor, you can see what township your property is in. Right now is the open period to appeal your assessed value. That open period ends on July 19th for Hyde Park Township. So I, for the last day or so, have been very busy appealing all of my taxes on all of my properties. But because I got this letter, it sort of reminded me that I needed to do it specifically for the Hyde Park Township. There are some that have closed. Generally, the northern townships in Cook County have closed already, but most of the southern and western townships are going to be opening up the next few weeks. And mostly all the townships will be closed by the end of August, September, that time period. But you don't have to wait till then. So if you're hearing my voice, if you're hearing this recommendation and you want to take advantage of this, do it now. You can do it before the open period. You just can't do it after the open period. So if you appeal your assessed value on a township that has already closed, then it won't take effect until next year. So let me just say this. If you appeal your assessed value, you're not appealing your assessed value for 2017. Because what you're paying right now in 2018 are your taxes for 2017. So you're not appealing your assessed value for taxes you've already paid or that you're about to pay. You are appealing your assessed value for 2018 that will take effect for 2019, for the taxes you pay in 2019. All right? So if your township has closed already, then you will not be appealing your assessed value for 2018. You will be appealing your assessed value for 2019, which won't take effect until 2020. So it's really important that you do this now. If you appeal your assessed value, this is very important because people always get sort of paranoid, like, I don't want my taxes to go up. They cannot increase your assessed value because you appeal your taxes. They can only stay the same or go down. So I appeal my assessed values on all my properties every year. Every year I do it on all my properties. And generally speaking, on about 50% of them, they will go down. It may be slight, sometimes it's really huge. I'll tell you the example of the largest I ever got. My two daughters had condos down in Bronzeville, and we got both of them from foreclosures for a fraction, probably 20% of what the value was in the area. And the taxes on both of their condos were huge. They were massive. They were like South Suburb tax amounts. And so on each year I appealed them. The first year, one went down, one didn't go down. So the next year, what I did was I bounced properties off of each other for one thing because they were in the same building. And I showed that the values on that property, and there was another foreclosure in the building. So I used those comparable properties. I sent them the actual sales on those properties to show them that the values were nowhere near with the market values that they were showing the properties at. And after I did that, and they got the values down, they didn't bring the values down to what we paid for the properties, but they did bring them down significantly to the point that our taxes went down 50% on both of those units. Now, that was the most extreme that I've ever had since I've been appealing my assessed values, but the appeal process does work. Now, there are two methods to appeal, or two processes, two different organizations, if you will, or entities that you can appeal your assessed values to. First is through Cook County Assessor, and the second is through the Board of Review. You can do it online or you can do it through the mail. Now, the easiest is to do it online. You can do it in a couple of minutes and move on. CookCountyAssessor.com. CookCountyAssessor.com. When you go in there, if you don't know your PIN number, because you need to have your PIN, you can first do a search on your property address. Put in your property address, put in the city that you live in, and it will pull up your property. You'll see a picture of it. You'll see the PIN number. You'll see what the estimated market value is. You'll see what the assessed value is, and you'll see some of the description on your property. You will then use that PIN number, and you can also get that off of your tax bill, and you will go to the option that says appeal. At the top, there's a line there that has a bunch of options. There's one that says appeal, and you want to file a residential appeal. And you'll put in the information, you'll put in the PIN number. You don't have to put in any challenging comps like I did on that one, on those condos. You can just appeal it and just say, I think it's overvalued, or I think that there's an error. and they will review it automatically. They're going to review it. If you put in an appeal, they're going to review it, and they'll use their own comps if you don't submit comps. If you do have comps, so let's say if you got that sheet in the mail where they said that they revalued you for the 3 years, they're going to show you the comps that they used. And generally speaking, you can't use those comps because they based it off of those values, and all of the properties have the same value. And unfortunately, what they do is they look at the whole community, not at properties like your property. They're looking at the whole community, and they're looking at what the values are in your community. So if you can show that there have been sales in your area that have values lower than your value, or if you had an appraisal done, or if you can talk to a realtor, do not call me. I am a retired realtor. Although I did mine, I'm not doing anybody else's. But there are some competent realtors out there that can help you. They can pull up some comps for you. You can put into up to 5. And you can show that the value on those properties are lower than the value for yours. Then you can submit those to the Cook County Assessor, and they will look at those, and they will take those into consideration when they're looking at the value of yours. Now, on that sheet, they show the assessed value for those properties, but they also show if there were some recent sales. And if you see that those recent sale values are lower than what your market value is, then you want to include those in your appeal, and you want to put in the comments, there have been sales in the area that have brought down the value of my property, and as a result, the assessed value should be lowered. Now, if you have a realtor that can come up with additional sales, if they can come up with up to 5, that makes your argument even stronger. I have one property where there have been no sales in the last 3 years that have come anywhere near what they valued my property at. So I pulled off all the sales of similar properties for the last 3 years and sent to them with a nice little letter that said, your value is just totally off. There have been no sales anywhere near this market value, so you need to lower my market value and my assessed value down significantly to an average of, and I put what the average was for those sales over the last 3 years. Now, after you do that, and again, you can do that very quickly online, or you can print it off and you can mail it to them. And again, if you're in the Hyde Park Township, you want to do that by July 19th. It needs to be postmarked by July 19th. But again, if you're not in the Hyde Park Township, regardless of what township you're in, do that now for all your properties. You can also appeal through the Cook County Board of Review, Cook County Board of Review, all one word.com. You will go in there, and at the top right, it'll say appeal, and then you can go down the next screen that comes up. You can either register, or you can just do it as a guest. And you will go through a similar process. It looks similar to what you just did on Cook County Assessor, but this is a different body. This is a different group of people that basically review what the assessor does. So they're going to review what the assessor does with you again. So you have 2 opportunities to get your assessed values. Remember, the taxes are based on the assessed value. You have 2 options, 2 ways to potentially have your assessed values lowered. And again, they can the only 2 options that they have when someone appeals is to either keep them the same or to lower them. Now, with the Board of Review, you can submit it online, just like you did with the Cook County Assessor. You can do it on paper, just like you do with the Cook County Assessor. Or you can request an in-person hearing, and you can present it yourself. I've never done that. They have really, really good people at the Board of Review. I've met many of them. I know many of them personally that either work at the Board of Review right now or have worked at the Board of Review in the past. And they do a very good job of representing you when you submit to them paperwork or a request for them to reevaluate your assessed value. You can also hire an attorney to do it, but it's not necessary. You really can do it yourself. So you want to go in there again. You want to put in your information, your PIN number. You want to say that you think that it's overvalued or that it needs to be reviewed again. If you're not getting a homeowner's exemption and you live in that property, you definitely want to have that changed with the assessor and with the Board of Review. That's an easy one, as long as you can prove that you live in the property. If you're a senior citizen, you should be getting a senior discount. If you're over 65, I think it's 65. I can't remember if it's 65 or if it's 63. But when you're, I think it's 65. When you get over 65, then you can have your taxes lowered even more by being, number one, a homeowner. And generally speaking, if you are an owner occupant of that residential property, your taxes will go down about a third if you actually live in that property. If you live in the property and you're a senior, you get a third off for being an owner occupant, and then you'll get another third off of that for being a senior. So being a homeowner and senior, your taxes will go down a huge amount. All right, so on the assessors, again, you can put some comps in there of recent sales that you either are aware of. Maybe you saw a sign. You know, you can search on that property. You can look up that PIN number. You can look and see what their assessed value is compared to your assessed value. And if their assessed value is lower than yours, then you want to put that in the comparables to say your assessed value should be as low as their assessed value. There are many cases where the assessed value is the same as yours, but again, like for instance on the assessors, when you got that letter that showed the comparables, and even though they had assessed values that were similar to yours, you saw market values that were on sales that were lower than yours, then your argument is, although the assessed value is the same as my assessed value, the market value that you have listed for this comparable property is too high. And the reason is if you look out on Realtor.com or if you look on the Recorder of Deeds, you will see that this property recently sold for X amount, which is lower than the market value you have for me. All right, so again, you can take the easy route, which is just fill out the paperwork. It'll take you 5 minutes to do it on CookCountyAssessor.com. It'll take you 5 to 10 minutes to do it on CookCountyBoardOfReview.com and submit it and do nothing, and they will do the work for you. Or if you feel very strongly and you have data to justify that your assessed values are too high, you can do a little bit more research, you can do a little bit more paperwork, and the payoff in the long run is going to be very beneficial to you. I know this is a lot of information. Although I am a realtor and I'm not going to do any work for you, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You can email me at sheilamws@gmail.com, or I don't have Messenger or any of my mobile devices, but on my desktop I do have Facebook Messenger, so you can feel free to Facebook message me, or in the comments section you can put your email address, or say, Sheila, please message me, or please don't put your phone number on there. I don't like for information like that to be out there. But then in Messenger or in email, if you want me to call you, you can do that on my email or in my Messenger, and I will call you back. Don't Facebook call me because I won't answer, but send me a message. I'm an email queen. I look at email all the time. and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have, and I may even have some names and numbers of some realtors that you can contact if you need to get some data. But utilize this appeal process. It's free. It costs you nothing. Your taxes can't go up. They can only go down. I hope this information has been beneficial to you. I am Sheila Wilkinson-Sanders. Remember to stay faithful. Remember to stay focused. Remember to stay committed. And have a wonderfully blessed and supreme day.